Hey guys, Heather Smith with Heather Smith Outdoors, and I'm sitting down with the amazing Randy Dearman. Hey Randy.
It's cold outside.
It is definitely cold outside. You know, I mentioned last week that I was going to have Randy on here and we were going to visit. I'm lucky enough, you know, and very fortunate that when I moved up to Sam Rayburn, there's so many legends that are here, Randy being one of them. And you've seen me fish with him before. You've seen an episode on the Hunt Channel. We've done with the Littles when we were crappie fishing. And so I called Randy this morning because we're not fishing this week.
It's not a good week to be on the lake. You know, when it gets down in the 30s and 20s, and he was supposed to get down close to 10, I think.
2. I saw one forecast even with the wind chill is going to be 2 on Monday. And I don't think in the history of ever I've seen that happen in Texas. And I'm quite sure maybe I didn't make it past that accident in November, and maybe this is version of purgatory. I'm not really sure. So, and they canceled Bass Champs and the MLF on Toledo Bend because of the weather conditions. So, if you guys aren't familiar with Randy, well, let me give you a little story. When I first started coming up here fishing, I was out there, like I said, I would go out and visit my mom because her ashes are spread out there, and I would fish. And then I started doing tournaments, and I came in, and this nice gentleman, because I didn't know a lot of people here, would come over and, so how was it fishing today? You know, and I would tell him, and I was like, what are you doing? And I had no idea who he was. And then one day I was fishing with Brian Branham, and Brian was like, you know, Randy Dearman invented, or was the father of Braided line. And so, you want to tell him that story? Because he's an amazing guide, by the way, here. So, and you guys will get to see bass fishing with him as well, as soon as it warms up. But I know everybody wants to know about the Braided line story.
I'll tell you how the Braided line got started.
Okay.
A real good friend of mine, Terry Odom, has Odom Lures.
Okay.
You know, we always fished. You know, even when we had tournaments, we fished. Terry had a place down on the coast.
Hold on, while you're doing that, I want to make sure, because not only do I get these messages in here, I learned this from, there we go. Okay. Y'all can hear, right? Just let me know you can hear, because I got a new phone, the mic's not, so I'm doing checks, so we may have to speak up just a little. Sorry. Terry Odom.
All right. So we didn't have no tournaments going on. Terry and his brother had a place down on the coast. And he said, hey, man, we're going to go down and catch some trout and redfish. Said, you want to go down there? I said, sure.
Yeah, who's not going to say no to redfish?
Yeah, I ain't got no tournaments going on. Let's go catch some trout and redfish. I grew up on the coast, so I always liked doing that anyway.
Where'd you grow up at?
Down around anyway.
Oh, okay, all right. And a who-at? Yeah, right? So, yeah.
So anyway, we're down there, and while we're fishing and everything, Terry started telling me, he said, man, I got some of this line. He said, I need to show it to you. I said, what kind of line? He said, well, it's actually competition cap strings. Some guys that come down and shoot some rough fish with a bow and arrow, and they had this on there.
They have a gar or something?
Gar.
Yeah.
It's any kind of trash fish. So anyway, they said they get back in the bushes, said you can just get a hold of that line and pull it out. So it's real small. Give me some of it. So he did. He said, it might work flipping. So I said, I put some on a reel. It was real spin. It was white.
Uh-huh.
And fished with it for about a week. And then they had the tournament here at Sam Rayburn. And I used it in that and won the tournament. Actually set a record at that time for the heaviest, 15 fish weighed in.
15?
Yeah.
So we're doing
5 a day, 3 days.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay.
So anyway, and they wrote all the stories about it and everything, and we started. After that, we started selling this stuff.
The lynch line.
Yeah, the lynch line. That's how lynch line got started, was with Terry Odom. And it just took off. It's got so many things you use it for. I mean, Milo's still good. Fluorocarbon's good. But where you need braided line, you need braided line.
Yeah, you flipping, you're gonna need it. You need it when you're throwing like a top water with a frog,
Good top water line.
No,
Buzzbait.
Buzzbait's good. Yeah.
Just as far as visibility and all, I can't see where it's ever made any difference to me. Flipping, it's a vertical fall, and the fish see it when it falls, and they get it. They're not looking at lines. So.
Yeah, there's no presentation there when it's coming in, right? So.
I mostly use 65 pound, and still got some of the old original stuff.
Do you?
Still got some of it.
That's awesome. Yeah. Now, Now here's a question, and it's a debate. Now, and I think you know my style of fishing anyway. So, I always tie a leader with my braid when I'm doing top water. Okay, I don't do it for flipping, and only just because I like the presentation. For me, again, you said it doesn't bother you. Do you I mean, you're the father. You're the one that brought it into this industry. Do you tie it directly to the lure when you're doing frogs?
Directly to the lure.
You do.
Directly.
Look at this, schooling me right here. So, because I don't do
There's
it.
no reason to have two different lines of them. You got another knot that could break.
Yeah.
The braid's not going to break.
Okay.
I would never flipping or throwing
Never flipping.
a lure with braid. I would never use no.
I mean, yeah. See, I use my go-to is mono, but and people, Flora is obviously the new thing, and everybody. Well, I say new compared to all the other lines, and that's their go-to thing. And I'm a mono girl. I know it's crazy, but call me old-fashioned, So, but I'm a mono girl. Unless it gets saturated, then I gotta switch it out really quick because it gets wet. I mean, saturated so easily. But now you set that record. He's a phenomenal guy, and you've seen him out there we brought the littles out there, we do some crappie fishing. As a matter of fact, I still use your crappie recipe. Yeah, he gave me the most phenomenal crappie recipe, by the way, which was amazing, and that's why I cooked them that day when we went home, and those things were huge, by the way. We had some really big ones. Now, you've been guiding here for how long?
I started guiding over here at Rayburn in, I guess, the late 80s.
Late 80s?
I was still guiding on Livingston here, back and forth, but probably the last 15 years I stayed here.
Yeah, and I know that you are an avid outdoorsman all the way around. You're a hunter, so I know you've got a ranch down in Mexico, too.
Yeah.
And how was that recently? I know you went down there.
Oh, it's always good down there.
Mm.
Beans, backstrap, tequila. You can't beat it.
Yeah, you can. And you can't get COVID with tequila. I don't put that on record. I did not say that tequila cures anything. I kind of got, hold on, somebody. Now, let me let you guys know something. What we're going to do is I should have said this in the beginning. We're going to go through some stuff. He's obviously talking about how he brought Braid into the industry. I've had a couple of guys that are ice fishermen that said it's been around forever, and they had it up there when they were dropping string. But I'm like, well, that's the first commercially marketed one, Lynchline was. So, let's get that fact out there, and then we're going to ask a couple more questions, and then at the very end of everything, what we're going to do is we're going to give you guys an opportunity to actually ask questions, and we're going to do a Q&A with Randy, and that way you guys can ask the questions that you guys want to ask, because he is a walking, living legend, and it's an honor to be able to fish with him and have him as a friend, and he's probably actually one of the nicest guides around here.
Wow.
Yeah, so... and then we have a lot of cool guys around here, you know what I mean? So I'm so lucky to live here because at any given moment, table 11, you're sitting down with some of the biggest legends in the industry, and everybody's just so humble,
The great thing about living here is you can go out there, catch some of the biggest bass you'll ever see, lots of crappie,
Yeah.
and the lake's good pretty much 365 days a year. Now, this is going to be a little exceptional this week. I mean, if you had the nerve to go out there, I'm sure you could still catch them, but I'm not that mad at them.
That's what I said. We were on the phone earlier, and I love fishing, but, when you're looking at single-digit numbers, you're looking over at Toledo Bend, they're looking at 10 to 15 to 20 mile-an-hour knots coming out there. I mean, we knew it was going to be bad when Bass Champs and NMLF said it's going to be a trailer tournament, and you could trailer, and that's a big red flag right there that it's going to be bad. And then when they turn it back around and said, oh, never mind, they called it. Yeah, and I'm like, thank goodness. But it's dangerous because of those conditions. I came back yesterday. There were rollers coming across the lake. And I know you've seen many boats out here in Rayburn. And if you don't know Rayburn to begin with, it's not something you want to come out here and just start going wahoo on because there are stumps everywhere. You've got 2 submerged forests. I mean, you've been here, so you've navigated with your eyes closed, I'm sure.
I keep my eyes open.
Yeah, the floating stumps are bad, aren't they? Yeah, I've been caught in the middle of a boat lane in a fall shootout. What's your personal best as far as bass goes?
Personal bass here on the lake.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest one I ever caught here, I actually did not weigh it.
Really?
He probably weighed a little over 14 pounds. I caught a couple 12-pounders.
Yeah.
He was considered to be bigger than that. And was practicing for a tournament.
It's always the luck, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hopefully it wasn't the day before.
No, it was about a week before.
Now, is this lake the biggest lake you've ever caught bass on, or a biggest bass you ever caught was on this lake, or was it on other lakes?
I caught one over in Georgia at Lake Seminole. That was right at 15 pounds.
George actually holds the record for the biggest bass ever caught. So, my family's from Georgia. They keep trying to get me to go back. And I think that's how my great aunt's getting me. She's like, "You want a big bass?" I'm like, "I'm coming." So, now net worth. Okay, not worth getting sick over. That's what we're saying earlier. Somebody said it's not worth getting sick over with these weather conditions. Now, what is your go-to lure?
I probably caught through the years more fish on a spinnerbait than any other bait.
Really?
And that's, people look at me and say, "What?" I said, "Yeah, I mean, you can fish it all year long. You can fish it 6 inches of water. You can fish it in 30 foot of water, just by using a different size head." It's a real versatile lure that I've got a lot of confidence in, and I think you can cover a lot of water with it. You use it a lot to find fish. You can find fish with it because you can cover a lot of water. But you can, slow roll it down real deep at 3/4, 1 ounce spinnerbait, 25, 30 foot of water to catch fish. You can throw a smaller one, a shallow, 6 inches to 2 foot of water to catch a lot of fish. So it's a bait that a lot of people don't throw as much anymore, but I promise you, it's my go-to lure. If I had one lure, and that's all I could have, it'd probably be a spinnerbait. Because I can fish it shallow, deep, where.
What color on the spinner? Gold or silver?
Depends on water color.
Yeah, that is true. I just didn't know if you had it. Yeah, but okay. So
probably most of the time I throw a gold and silver. If the water's real dirty, I like a copper. It's hard to find copper blades anymore, but in dirty water, I like copper.
Yeah, I know. And then even mine, when we do when it's overcast for my rattle traps, I always try to go to copper versus going to the gold. So especially here, or Rayburn Reds. But now, right now, it's, let's say, cold weather. Not this is an anomaly. This doesn't happen. But what do you think about cold? What's your cold weather go-to? Cold water go-to. Let me put that way. Cold water go-to.
Cold water is just kind of going to slow the fish down. If it really drops, 4 or 5 degrees, it's going to, you need to slow your retreat down. I say that, but Rayburn's famous for this time of year throwing the rattle trap, ripping it out of the grass real fast. But day in and day out, when the water temperature drops 3 or 4 degrees, I'm going to slow down.
Yeah. And you're a Strike King, right?
I've been a Strike King since.
Yeah. So that's
since the old days.
Yes, right. So that's your. What's your favorite crankbait?
Favorite crankbait probably would be a Strike King 6XD. That's
my go-to. That's definitely my go-to. Yeah. So you got a color that you prefer?
It don't matter what color it is, as long as it's chartreuse and blue.
Did you hear that? It doesn't matter what color it is, as long as it's chartreuse and blue. So that'll work, most definitely. Now, what about your finesse fishing style?
I'm not much of a finesse fisher, but I'm a power fisherman. I don't drop shot. I don't do all that. I guess the closest I get to finesse fishing is throwing a live Carolina rig up shallow.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you do a lot of deep water or no?
Anywhere from a foot to 40 foot.
Oh yeah. Well, the lake will give you that. So
yeah. So it just depends on time of year. The number one thing I like to know about this lake, especially this lake, any lake, but if the water's coming up, the fish usually move up. If it's falling, fish closer to the ledges and drop-offs.
Right. Yeah.
Anytime on Sam Rayburn, if there's bushes in the water, you can catch fish in the bushes.
Right.
I don't care right now, cold as it is, or in the middle of the summer, if the willows and buckbrush have water in them, foot of water, you can catch fish shallow.
I saw him spraying the other day for that stuff up in brush, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, oh man, you know, and I know that stuff grows so much. But it's, you know, you look at this as anglers, we look at it going, eek! I mean, it's one thing, but there's so many boats on the water right now. I'm thinking they're just cutting through that stuff anyways. It can't grow, right? I mean, wrong? I don't know.
I don't know. I'm not a chemical lover. You know?
Right.
I mean, whatever we have, and I think vegetation is what makes a lake.
Yeah.
I don't care. I'd rather have some of that than nothing.
Right.
You know. We've got a lot of hydrilla now. It's probably the best hydrilla we've had in 8 or 10 years. So.
Oh, good. Yeah. So we're going to get out there next week. Now, Slade, well, maybe next week. We're looking at it right now. I just looked out the window and I saw the two sisters from Frozen. So I'm not trying to go out there and fish with those chicks. But Slade, a lot of people talk about, he has a son named Slade. And I've had a lot of followers mention Slade. And so...
Slade was, and still is, you know, he was a really upcoming bass fisherman. I mean, he had a lot of knowledge. He was raised with it since he was
I can imagine.
3 years old. And matter of fact, he caught his first on his birthday was July 19th. When he was 8 years old, he caught his. Back then, the limit was 10. He caught 10 fish that weighed a little over 40 pounds, 5 pound average.
Oh, that's good.
So he fished the top 100 tournaments when we had them. He qualified to fish them, and he kind of just different reasons got out of it. And, he saltwater fishing duck hunts now.
Oh, nice.
Works for the railroad.
Oh, nice. And I love birds.
And he comes up when the crappie are really biting. He says that when they're really biting, call me. I said, well, if we're really biting, I'd have to cancel the trip. He said, well,
yeah, don't do that.
yeah, but he comes up and crappie fishes. So.
Now, there's one thing I do want to get into, and a lot of people that come up here and fish, we're seeing a lot of fishing going on in the lake. I mean, just this weekend, which is great, we're seeing a lot more people getting into it, but because of the coronavirus in the last year, you know, last year was like spring break for 3 months because so many people were up here just fishing, and I thought it was going to have more of a negative impact on the fishing, but, I mean, we had, like, last February, on February 22nd last year, we had, gosh, I can't remember his name right now, but the two guys from Texas Team Trails with that 5-stringer for 49 pounds. Then we saw in Toledo Bend, the Sealy's tournament in the middle of July, that guy pulled that 12-pounder out. And then now we've got, like, Monday's already hit a 13.44. We had another guy's hitting 13s. And it's such a broad scale. You're seeing really big fish, and then, like, right next to it's low numbers. You know what I mean? So there's definitely big fish out there. What do you think the numbers are gonna yield as we progress, because we're hitting tournament season?
Well, the great thing about this lake, it fluctuates up and down, so the fish move in and out as the water does up. We've got a lot of hydrilla this year, and that'll really help after the spawn. Them little fish, they'll get that stuff, won't get ate up as bad.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I think you know, aquatic vegetation is what makes a lake good. The more of it you have, the better the lake's going to be.
Right, and the one good thing we have about Rayburn versus the, you know, like Cato or the other lakes and stuff like that you look at, we have any kind of technique that you are comfortable using when it comes to bass fishing. It can be used on Sam Rayburn. That, you know, we're not consistently shallow. I mean, you're looking at a 720 miles of shoreline for 5 different counties, a depth at one point of 80 feet, and a normal average is 12 feet, you know, so, and then you've got tons of, you know, hydrilla like he's talking about. You got your lily pads, you got your cypress trees. I mean, this is literally like, I think of all things, beach or even pepperwood's like a perfect storm, isn't it?
Oh yeah, there's just so many. We got so much different types of water, so much up and down, so much contour. There's still lots of timber that's under the water. But, it's just a great fishery. It's hard to find a fishery that can offer as many different styles of fishing as what this lake does.
Now, in these cold temperatures right now, would you say the north side or the south, in your opinion, the south side of lake would be the area that you would go to?
I always say the banks, that the northwest banks are best. They warm fast as the sun comes up. The east, the north wind don't blow on those. So
Okay.
those coves and pockets that lay where the north wind's not blowing on them, and the sun shines on them longer. Comes up in the morning, shines on them longer. So those are the pockets
You would go, yeah, that you would
I
recommend.
look at first.
Nice.
I'm
And
not
the-
saying they're always going to work.
yeah,
but
yeah, no, yeah.
The warmer the water is, the more active. the
Every
fish are
dog
gonna
has
be.
his day. You know, Kevin Van Dam, I saw him the other day. He said, everybody says there's no luck in fishing. That's what he said, and I went, you know, not that obviously he's great, but trust me, we all have some lucky days. You know, so. But what do you think about the creeks and the channels right now? You think they're going to be up in the grass? You think they're going to be moved out a little bit more into the creeks and channels?
I think that once the fish start up, they don't really go back out deep. They'll hang close to where they can come on the spawn. So
Okay.
I would say fish the drains where they go in, you know, and figure out how far in they are.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the outer edge of the grass probably would be what I would target.
Yeah. And the rattle trap's on, you know, spinner. What about swim jigs right now? What are you thinking about that?
You know, every day is a different day, so bass fishing is all about trial and error.
Yeah.
You know, if this is not working, try something else.
Mhm.
Don't throw the same thing all day long. If you're not catching no fish and not getting no bites, you're either fishing too deep or too shallow. I mean, I think you can catch them on a lot of different baits. Just don't get hung up. Keep throwing the same thing, the same type of water. You need to change water or change baits.
Now, here's a question for you, because now this is something I know when we've talked about this before in previous interviews. Whenever you start doing the bass fishing and you have a lot of fish in an area, you didn't have video game fishing back then when you first started, right? You were marking everything. Yeah, and so now we have the video game fishing, and now the electronics have gotten so amazing that you can see fish everywhere. You know, the live scope is amazing, the 360. And now I've seen this. I've been out there fishing. We've been tons of fish underneath us, okay? And they're not biting. We've tried tons of different baits. Do you recommend to stay there and keep trying it, or would you recommend to go to a different location?
I would move on if I couldn't catch one. I'm not saying I wouldn't come back now and try again, but you know, if it's not working here, aren't that board up, move on.
Now here's
Come
another.
back.
Circle back,
Yeah,
as
sure.
they say. Circle back to that. Now here's another thing. A lot of people we have a dam here on Sam Rayburn, so they let the water out or they pull the water. Do you see that being an impact with the way the fish are biting whenever they start pulling that water in the afternoon?
I think a lot of times when they pull water, it causes the fish to feed, but they'll locate, you know, on the side of the ridge where the water's coming over or something. You need to pay attention when you do have water flow to make sure you were on the end of a pond or something where the water's coming across, because they'll lay there to
Shark it, like an apex predator that they are. And usually with coverage, they got to have something over the coverage.
I like to fish, you know, where I'm dragging into the current, because I think the fish are going to be face mostly into the current, so I want to pull my bait.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you know that there's a fish there, you just shoot 5 or 12 feet past them and bring it in, or well, obviously not in the grass, but you know, open water.
Yeah, I'd like to, you know, I like to throw past them and bring it to them.
Yeah, yeah. And do you also think, here's another question, because right now the lake is so overfished. We're noticing, and this is not an insult from anyone, it's almost a joke, but okay. You know, fish right now are they're acting scared because there's so many fish, it's almost like they got PTSD. So are a lot of people I'm seeing, because I'm seeing 2 different styles. Steve Johnson, love him, great guide, right? He fishes a lot of the major tournaments. Now he's coming in and he's killing it. He's killing his motor, and then he's just trolling up from 20 to 40 feet away. Are you seeing a problem like that? Or are you coming right in on him with a motor and it doesn't matter?
I think it just depends on, you know, if you know where you're going to fish, to stop back from it a little bit, you'll troll up there to it. Water depth plays a big part in that. I mean, some of the best fishing places that I found when I was traveling around the country is close to boat ramps. There's a lot of fish released there.
Mm-hmm.
So And they're used to the motors going all the time. I mean, I used to get past the guy, he's gonna run right over here and catch a fish, you know. I mean, I think, you know, if they're down more than 15 foot, motors really don't. Sometimes I think it scatters the bait, and when the bait runs, the fish go into little feeding trenches. So I don't worry about motors that much.
What do you think about loons?
Wherever you see loons, there's bait.
Yes.
So wherever there's bait, it's very, very possible there'll be fish.
Right. I've done that too, because I have, you know, anglers are one way. Don't chase loons, or the loons are a good sign. I always look for birds. Charlie King, who taught me, as you know, Charlie King always told me that's the best fisherman in the world. It's a bird. So look for birds. So, and Charlie King, prime example, as you just said, right across from Castle Boykin, in one of the big Bass Splash tournaments, literally where they let the fish out. Right directly across from that is where he won he kept second place. It was a $100,000 fish, and it was right across from the chute where they let the fish out. So that's a prime example that you can go there. Now, what we're going to do is I'm going to put on my glasses because, you know, it's me, and I'm going to let you guys ask some Q&As now. So if you have any questions, I'm going to try to go through some, and you can ask Randy here. That way, you too can get in with the great. Okay, and also, if you have, Randy's a crappie fisherman guide. He's also a bass guide. So if you guys want to come here, fish with a legend, learn from him yourself, and actually have the best time on a bucket list lake, Randy Dearman is the guy. Randy, you have a website, don't you?
Yeah, we do.
Okay, what is it?
It's just Randy Dearman.
And it's Dearman?
Correct.
Okay, .com? Oh, look at that. So he's got to trademark his name like me because somebody tried to jack my name. I know, it's like, anyway, so let me take a look at it. If you have any questions, we're going to go through. Let me see what I got here so far. Hey, guys. Mike Bingham says hello to you, Randy. Oh, the crappie recipe. Do you want to share them your crappie recipe?
Sure.
Okay,
sure.
go ahead.
Most people, when you tell them about it, they think you're crazy, but we do it in a microwave.
Yeah.
We just kind of marinate it in some Italian zesty dressing, put a little Tony's on it, a little lemon pepper, put Parmesan cheese on top of it, stick it in the microwave.
A little Old Bay.
Stick it in the microwave for 4 minutes.
Yeah.
That's it. You ain't got nothing to clean up, just the one dish. And
It's so good. I'm not even going to lie. Somebody asked about thunder crickets. Do you like thunder crickets?
thunder cricket's a tremendous bait.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, it's like a chatterbait that was come out. Strike King's model of it. And, matter of fact, I caught several fish on it Tuesday.
K.U. O'Brien, I'm probably slaughtering that name, and I'm sorry. K.U. O'Brien, he used to fish against you in the Bassmaster. Mm-hmm. He says hello. He says you look good, like you're doing well. And so he mentioned that. Okay. Spinnerbait, one of my first kayak tournaments, won it. Okay. All right, hold on. I'm trying to get it out.
The spinnerbait, it don't matter about it, what color it is, as long as it's chartreuse and white.
Chartreuse and white for a spinnerbait? Okay.
You don't need one color.
Okay, thunder cricket. Been targeting crappie through the ice. I mark a lot, but can't get them to commit. Any suggestions? Move, he said.
Come to Sam Rayburn.
Yeah, come to Sam Rayburn. Move out of the ice, yeah. What is the best time to catch the big crappie? I can tell you last summer we smoked them.
Yeah, I think you can catch crappie pretty much any time of the year. Usually, you know, in the colder months, up the rivers or up the creeks. In the summer, go to the main lake, fish, you know, deep brush.
Deep brush.
25, 35 foot.
And you know what's cool too is when hopefully I'll be able to see some more questions that are coming in right here. I need to learn to crappie fish and come and hire you. What's the best month to crappie fish?
Probably May.
May?
Anywhere from May through September, but May is when they first get out on the lake. It's always good.
Yeah. That's good. And like I said, if you guys go to my YouTube, go to Heather Smith Outdoors, you're going to see actually Randy and myself and the littles out there. And the littles are smoking. I mean, we were jigging for him, and the littles were bringing up some massive crappie. And he's great with kids. I mean, I put him to the test because he had the littles out there, and those two, you know. And so they drive anybody crazy, you know. So that's probably why I'm not right. Okay, what do you use for crappie?
We catch them, you know, on jigs and minnows both. You know, once we get out fishing in the main, early in the year we throw a jig a lot, a little road runner or a jig over the grass. After they move out in the main lake, we still catch some on the jig straight up and down, real light jig, and then after that we use minnows most of the time. That's the easiest, fastest.
I think that's what we use when we're out there, yeah. So, Eric Smith, like your last name, by the way, and for the record, my first husband's name was Eric, so now we don't like him. But he said someone told him in the next 60 days crappie fishing is best. I'm probably going to answer that before I go to Randy. It's also going to depend on where you are, and I don't think anything's going to be good in the next 7 days. So, what is your answer for that?
The best time to catch crappie is go every chance you get.
Yeah.
And take lots of chances.
Yes.
And you're going to catch them.
Yeah.
You know, you're not going to catch them every time you go all year long, but there's going to be, if you go several times a year, you know, early, middle, and late, you're going to have some good trips.
And you know what's really cool too about crappie fishing with him? He's got a lot for big crappie. He means no. I think he said in May is the best time for your biggest crappie. Right?
It's good. You're going to catch lots of numbers, lots of throwbacks then, but you're going to catch, you know, lots. You know, a couple of hundred or so. You know.
Yeah. No, we smoked him. I mean, we smoked him when we were out there. Now, what was I gonna? Somebody threw me off. You were saying, oh. When you go out there and go crappie fishing, now I've been crappie fishing specifically. Now we're going to go bass fishing and go a different route because I want to get out there. And I got my new rod line coming out too, so I'm excited about that, the HSO line. And I've got the littles. I got my littles line coming out. But when crappie fishing with them, how many times? You guys have caught so many big bass.
Oh yeah, then you know we build these brush piles. We sink, you know, a lot of trees. And not only do the crappie come in there, the brim come in there, and the big bass come in there to eat those, you know, eat the bait. We actually build in places that hold bait, and that's what brings the crappie and brim in and brings the bass in to eat them. A lot of times you'll have a crappie on the week, 3/4 pound a pound, and, you know, 8 to 12 pound bass, and get it when you're bringing it up.
And I'm going to say this is not him saying it. I've actually got the Sanford brothers that were here too earlier. They're guides for crappie fishing, and these guys put a lot of work into these brush piles that they put out there. So this is not them. This is Heather. Everybody knows that I speak my opinion. So I'm going to go ahead and say it. A lot of people come out here and they recreational fish. Clearly, I love it. I support fishing. That's my passion and my love. But one thing I also support are people that are this is their living. Okay, so they're guides. So it's a little bothersome, and I see it, and just to remind people of etiquette, when you're out there fishing and you're doing a recreational and you see guides out there with trips and they have their customers with them and they're on their piles that these people have actually put out there, they've maintained, it is extremely rude to try to take away their pile from them. This is something that they've done. In my opinion, okay, I know you're not because I know you're so nice, but in my opinion, I think it's very rude to take something, and yes, they don't own it, but come on guys, they nurtured this thing, and this is their living, and these people are coming in for this experience to be able to do that. So just a friendly reminder to some of you guys, because I see a lot of people, I'm seeing less and less etiquette in fishing now as the younger generation comes on, and I think us as seasoned anglers or our parents or, you know, people trying to introduce it, I think it's also important that we impart the wisdom of etiquette when it comes to angling to those that get into it. It's just like raising children with manners, and it's just manners on the water, in my opinion. So, now what would your advice be to those that want to come in? What's a good crappie fishing pole for people to start using when they want to get into crappie fishing? Length and power and action.
Oh, I would recommend like a 6-foot medium light.
Medium light?
Spinning rod with 6 to 12 pound line.
Okay. Are you mono or fluoro or braid?
I use both.
Okay.
I use braid a lot, especially with the jig.
Uh-huh.
And I use, you know, mostly mono on my, you know, rods when we're fishing the brush piles.
Okay. Okay. And so, and what kind of reels do you use?
Mostly lures is what I use.
Lures?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm a fan of lures. I have lures in Shimano, so I mean I go back and forth. It depends. So, but I've got a new prototype that I've been trying out, and hopefully I'll be able to share that one too when it hits the market. So, does anyone else have any other questions while we're here? Otherwise, I'm gonna let Randy go because I've held him captive for so long. Anybody? Class? Bueller? No? Yes. No. Oh, do you see the flooding having an impact that we have in different weather conditions? Obviously this, but flooding, how does that affect your fishing?
That's what I said earlier. You know, when the water comes up, move up.
Yeah?
When the water falls, move out.
I heard somebody talk about oxygenation when it's more rainwater or something like that. Have you ever heard anything like that?
Moving water's going to have a bit more oxygen in it. So, you know, number one thing I'd say, if the water comes up, move up shallow. If it falls, move out.
What about the white bass here on the lake?
You know, they spawn up the river, and I know they're catching some up there now, or they were last week. I'll go up there some and fish for them. The main lake, about end of May and June, they'll get out on these humps and sandbars and stuff out there. You can catch them on those. You go out there with a spoon and just jig for them straight up and down. You can find them on electronics, and when you get on them, they're really large white bass here in this lake. A lot of them.
So what do you think? Okay, now let me ask you this. What do you think about watching the evolution of the electronics being used in the industry now, and what is your take on them?
There's no doubt. I mean, a person that don't have good electronics, they're at a disadvantage.
Yeah.
I mean, they just, you know, it's just these young guys who've come up with all the computers and everything. It's now got, without them, you can't compete.
Well, I agree. I agree. I mean, I don't know if you guys know this. If you follow G-Man, Jerry Swindle, and so he did not have an electronic sponsor this year, or he didn't have. I don't know why he didn't. I'm sure he had plenty of offers, but he basically made a comment about how he was tired of all these young guys coming up, and there were fish on the screens, and he wasn't seeing it. So he didn't go with a sponsor this year. He got all four of them. Okay, so he's got Garmin, Lowrance, Humminbird, and then what's the other one? All on his boat, all of them. And so on the back and the front, he's got 4 screens. So this guy can see everything. And I just thought it proves a testament that, you know, the video game fishing, as we call it, right, is so important, and you really have to learn to adapt and use the technology that's coming in, because it's actually so imperative to the industry.
You know, when I first started fishing, all we had was flashers, and we learned to use them, and then they come out the next model, the next model, the next model. Now, I mean, it's just you can ride and you can see fish just running at a slow speed, you know, in front of you, out the sides behind you, you know, 80, 100 foot away.
Mm-hmm.
It's really still hard for me to identify what type of fish this is. You just have to make an educated guess from where he is in the water column.
Yeah.
But you can see fish, know where there is fish, where to throw.
Yeah, no, I love it.
And what depth, you know, with the new side finders and down imaging and everything they have. It's just amazing how much they've done, and how far is it going to go?
Well,
who would ever thought we'd had all this?
I know, and prime example, you went through the whole stick and the pole thing, up to now they have power pole, which they didn't have before, you know, and so you went through. I have a great picture of Flip. His name, I can't remember his last. Flip, the bass fisherman, and back when they were sight fishing, when you were still doing that like they do on redfish, when they had the ladders on the bass thing, and it was the shuttle was launching at the same time, and he never even skipped a beat. He was still just doing like this, and the shuttle's going off like that. I'm like, that's the concentration of a real angler right there. But I still have flashers on my boat. Okay. Lots of lakes have areas for jet ski only. That's not a question, I don't think. But
I mean, I'm not saying that you can't find fish with a flasher, because you can.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. I mean, they all tell you the same thing. The only difference with the new stuff is you can see it out to the side. You can, it's just so much clearer.
Oh yeah, no. Well,
When you're using a flasher, you're looking at a cone straight down, and probably 20 foot of water. You're not looking at but a 3 foot circle.
Right.
And with the new stuff, you can see, 100 foot plus, front, back, side, everywhere.
Oh no, it's a nice little. I mean, you can see it. It almost looks like a little sonar going like this. Well, there was a gentleman in Oklahoma about a month ago, and he used an Alabama rig. Okay, he was using a live scope. He got right down on him, and he started jigging an Alabama rig, and he caught a stringer, a 50-pound stringer, jigging in Oklahoma using a live scope, jigging an Alabama rig. And I was just so gobsmacked. I'm like, that is never going to be my luck. I mean, but that was pretty awesome. That goes to show you how amazing technology has really came along. So what are you going to do for the next 2? You going to continue to guide, or are you looking at any kind of retirement plans in the near future, or?
I love fishing, so I'm going to keep fishing.
Yeah.
I'm not all into the tournaments. I'll fish 1 or 2 a year here, but I just love being on the water. If I can help somebody, give them a little bit of what I've done for the last 50 years, I'll pass it on.
Now, I've known you fished with Brian Branham before as a partner. You do some stuff with Brian, and I saw there was one time there was a lure stuck. Do you know what story I'm going to talk about? When he was holding you by the legs and you were down trying to get the lure in the water?
I was holding Brian.
Oh, you were holding Brian? Oh, okay.
Brian,
yeah. So if everyone's seen that meme where it's like when you want to get your favorite lure?
Well, the big deal about that lure, it had a 6.5 pound fish on it. One was $50,000.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, exactly. It's important. I mean, look,
if it was just a lure, I'd have pulled it off. But the fish was on there, and Brian said, "Is he big?" I said, "Well, yeah, he's definitely over 5 pounds."
Yeah.
So we tried to reach him and couldn't, and you can't get out of the boat. So Brian touched him with his hand. He's got long arms.
Yeah, he's a really tall guy. He's actually a really tall guy.
Let me hold on to your feet. You going down a little deeper.
Yes, I work with Bob Seeley, as a matter of fact. He said, "I will come see you, Randy, with my boys, my friends. I'm friends of Bob Seeley, and my oldest is disabled." So, and then I know Randy actually has a pontoon boat, too, in addition to his bass boat. So I know that it can accommodate.
Love for him to come.
Yeah, I'd love for you to come, like he was saying. So, someone said that they're talking about the possibility of getting rid of live scope in the tournaments. And then that's been talk. I haven't really heard that chatter. I don't see that happening. Considering also these big companies are ones of the biggest sponsors of these tournaments, I don't really see. I mean, that's behind the closed doors, follow the money. I don't really see that happening. Yeah, what do you think?
I think as long as the sponsors are going to pay to, promote fishing, they're going to let them use their product.
Yeah, I have to agree with that one on there. What do you think about the new Bass Pro $1 Million Amateur Trail that they're doing?
Will they let me fish?
They will. Well, I think you can't have $100,000 winnings, and I don't know if it was a year or whatever, or you can't guide if it's on Rayburn. You can't guide on the rules, just like sealing. I think.
I'm just kidding. No,
But
I think it's great. Anything you do to get more people on the water,
Yeah.
that's where they need to be. They don't need to be places that we're not going to talk about.
Yeah, right. Well, I always say this, tackle box, not Xbox. Let's go that way. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, I don't drink anyway, so I'm not a fan of. Not that I used to own a bar. I don't think there's a problem with it. I just don't drink. And it's also, too, because we get polygraphed a lot in those tournaments. We have the option to, at any moment, you can get polygraphed. So, I don't encourage anyone to drink and fish. People do. I just think that if you're behind the wheel of anything, it's not in the best, obviously, reason, because of all the new guys are winning. I don't think he said the reason that they are going to want to get a live scope is because all the new guys are winning. So you're saying because the guys are good, they're going to try to get rid of it? Then learn how to electronic fish, right? I mean, that would be my thing.
You can, some people just naturally, I don't know how to say it, they naturally know how to look for fish It don't matter what kind of equipment they have, they're gonna find.
Yeah, I think what they're trying to say is their discussion is trying to get rid of live scope because the newbies are so good at things. Well, you know what my response to that would be is that, you know, there's a lot of great fighter pilots. As a matter of fact, the owner of Old 18, the company, the rods that I have that sponsor me, and then I have the HSO rods. The owners, one is a former Navy SEAL, the other one is a Top Gun pilot. Pilots are amazing. They're fantastic. You can be the best fighter pilot in the world. However, the government is also transitioning now to drones. And drones are done by video game. It's new technology. You keep up with technology or technology will pass you. And that is the way that things have to be. I get it that they're great anglers. Everybody knows how to do it. But you have to use, and you've got to stay up with what's going on today, or life is going to pass you by. That's my opinion on it.
I'm gonna stay old school as long as I can. But they put a lot of heat on me to.
Yeah, and they do, and that you have to. And so, but you know, and the good thing is, you know, a lot of techniques, and you know the things, you've got years of experience that these kids don't have. And so, eventually, even though some of those things is going to fall through because they're using statistics. But if you learn to marry the two of them and learn to study and what I call evolve, it just makes you a better fisherman. You know, just in life itself too. No substitute for time spent on the water. Anybody have? Go ahead.
That's what I was going to say. You know, experience is the best institution.
Correct.
But the tuition's awful high.
It is. It is. And now let's
just spending a lot of time on the water.
Yeah, that is. Well, you know, I think the best. If somebody asked me the other day, "Hey, can you teach me how to catch a fish?" I said the best way to learn how to catch a fish is to catch a fish. Because there's nothing, you can sit there forever and finesse fish, or you could do spinner, or you can do, I mean, any kind of swim bait. Unless you know how to set that hook or practice, or unless you know how to use that bait caster and throw in that target area where you need to be, you got to practice that. That's nothing anyone can teach you. That just comes with learning and doing it over and over again, repetitive stuff there. Anything else, guys? Because I'm going to, Randy, do you have anything you want to say to anybody, or do we cover?
We covered quite a bit. It don't matter how good of technique or what you're throwing. If you're not throwing it where there's fish, you're not going to catch it.
Right.
So,
yes, ma'am.
technique and all helps, but being where the fish are is number one thing.
Yeah, it really is. And what do you think? We've got so many kids coming in. The Southeast, you know, the fishing comes in. It's becoming such a big pastime right now with kids fishing. We had 1,200 kids here this past weekend. Outlaw Outdoors has grown tremendously. I love that tournament trail. Bass Champs, MLF is here. You know, Duckett obviously bought FLW. You know, Seeley's tournament, clearly, you know, he's my mentor and the holds all the world records for amateur tournaments. And now you see Bass Pro coming in. Power Pole's got stuff that they're doing. It's a growing trend. And what is your thoughts? What is your thoughts about? Because you've seen it fall back. Let me say this. You've seen it fall back, right? It fell back for a little bit, and now it's becoming more popular with the kids. And like myself, you're seeing more and more women get into it. And what do you think is going to be the next step in this evolution that's going on? Or what do you think we need to do to get more women involved?
Well, it starts off now in the high school tournament and stuff. There's so many of them getting introduced to fishing at a younger age. It doesn't matter if it's male, female, or whatever. It's gonna bring more people in the sport of fishing.
Right. And now, do you eat bass?
I have.
Yes. Yeah, because
I like to catch Kentuckies.
Yeah.
Spotted bass. And eat those and crappie. You know.
Right.
I usually throw the bass back.
Yeah.
That's just me, you know.
Right. Yeah, I don't like to eat the source, you know what I mean? So, but, and it's also it's just me. I like to come back and see if it's going to get bigger.
The number one thing is there's limits, size limits, and creel limits, and people just need to follow them if they do want to keep some.
Hold on, everyone. Hold on. Everyone has different techniques to catching. You fish with Scott Williams. Have you ever fished with Scott Williams before?
Name sounds familiar, but I can't.
Yeah, I can't place it either. No, it wasn't a Bill Dance. You fished with Bill Dance. Yeah, you fished with Bill Dance a lot. Didn't you have a tournament? You did tournaments, right? Yeah. I remember you telling me a story about it. I couldn't really remember, but well, guys, thank you for joining today. Thank you for listening. This is Randy Dearman. If you guys want to go out, get a good crappie guided trip with him, you can do a bass guided trip with him here on Sam Rayburn. He really is a living legend. I know I tried to cover as much as I could, but come out and experience it yourself. I appreciate you listening. Randy, as usual.
Love being with you.
I love spending time with you, man. I learned so much. I appreciate it. I'm going to probably convert this over to one of my episodes and put it in there on the Hunt channel. So if you missed it, I'll also save it. But thank you so much for watching Heather Smith with Heather Smith Outdoors. I appreciate it. Thanks, guys.